Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer, and today we're here back for episode 3 of the A to Z Challenge series, where today we are playing Ambiorix of Gaul. Ambiorix is not a leader that I am particularly fond of. He is, on paper, a very good leader, but for some reason I'm actually really bad at playing him. I don't really know why, but it's just something that I tend to struggle with, but I generally go for a science game as him, so that's what we're going to take a look at today. If you notice that I sound a little different, it's just because I'm traveling. I have a different microphone from usual, so before I get 50 comments in the comment section about why do you sound different, that would be why. So to get into the game setup here, of course, we are playing as Ambiorix on deity difficulty. For the map type, I went for continents and islands, standard map size. And then for the game modes, I turned on secret societies, monopolies and corporations, and also heroes and legends, because I was kind of planning on going for some early aggression in this game with the Gazete, so I figured it'd be good to have heroes and legends just to kind of make that a little bit more fun. I realized I forgot to show the seed. I didn't actually go to the advanced setup screen in this one, but I will show it whenever I get into the actual spawn here. So for the spawn on this one, we got pretty lucky. Actually, had a pretty good spawn. Plenty of hills here. You can see to the south and the west of where my settler is right here. A pretty decent tile to start on as well. We're on a plains hill tile, which is about ideal. We can start with a 2-2 tile on the stone there. The stone is also very nice because that's a tile that you can put a quarry on, which you generally want to get plenty of quarries as Ambiorix because the quarry will give adjacency bonus to the oppidum, which is your unique district. So for this one, we were able to just settle in place. I should also mention there is also the very nice large floodplain to the right of the capital. This is honestly about as good of a spawn as you can possibly ask for on Ambiorix because there's plenty of hill tiles and plenty of food to be had as well, which means you can grow a really high population and be able to work a lot of mine tiles, which means you can have a pretty strong city by the end of the game, and that is exactly what happened in this one as well. We'll see just how insane my capital was by the end of this game, but overall really lucky with the spawn on this one. So whenever you go for the first build on Ambiorix, I generally like the Gazete because, as I mentioned, I like to go early aggression, and I think when you go early aggression on any leader, you basically need to immediately start by producing a military unit. I think it's a little too slow if you go for a scout, just because of the fact that the deity AI starts so far ahead of you. I think that you have to kind of go for military strength from turn 1, so that's why I chose the Gazete for my first production here. Sent my Gazete that I started with out on some exploration, and I was able to find another continent down here to the south, which is pretty nice. I also did meet a very special someone, of course, Christina of Sweden, who everybody on the channel seems to love and adore. And I saw that her capital actually was decently close to mine. It wasn't super close, that it would be causing, problems for settling, but it was close enough that it could possibly be attacked. So I was considering going for my early aggression here against Sweden. And then after I finished my first Gazete, I immediately started to produce a settler. Also for early aggression, I know that I said you need to get military units early. I think it's important to get a second city out as fast as you can as well, because then having 2 cities that are producing military units makes you just be able to produce a lot more than if you only have 1 city producing them. So went for the settler here to try to settle a second city down that you can see I had pinned there. Kept exploring and found some more really good land. I found this geothermal fissure here, 2 additional stone tiles, which means I can get 2 quarries there and get a +5 oppidum. Had some gems here and plenty of mountains for campus district adjacency, which all are just really good things that you want to go for whenever you are playing as Ambiorix. I also found a goody hut and found the void seekers from that. I was planning on going vampires this game because combining the vampire castles with Ambiorix means that you can get a ridiculous amount of production in your capital. Spoiler alert, I wasn't able to get the vampires, so I had to go something else instead. Also did find a natural wonder. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this one, but it's like the Rainbow Mountain one. This is kind of a good natural wonder. It gives great general points and great merchant points if you own one of the tiles. I did find Hermetic Order, which also can be a decent option whenever you are going for a science victory. Fought some barbarians here for a bit. Gazete are really good at clearing barbarian camps because you get the extra combat strength against units in districts, so that counts for the barbarian encampment. You get extra combat strength fighting against the spearmen. And the Spearman, I believe, also has a higher base strength than the Warrior, so you get a little bit of extra combat strength from that as well. After I finished my settler in the capital, I immediately started going for another Gazete, because at this point, Sweden had settled a second city that was getting close to where I wanted to settle, so I figured I was probably going to go for war this game, so I immediately started producing more military units to try to build up my army, and then I eventually founded this second city and started building some military units in that one as well. Got really lucky here with a scout. I was able to find a goodie hut that gave me a free builder, and getting a free builder early on in the game like this is really good. It means that I can put a quarry on that stone tile. I can get down some of my first mines, which is going to expand my borders because I'm playing Ambiorix. You also do get one culture on mines, which is really good early on as Ambiorix, so I was able to get out some tile improvements nice and early, which just helps my capital grow a little bit faster and be able to produce military units a lot faster. Whenever I finished craftsmanship, I of course ran the Agoj policy card because I want to be making military units. So if you're going early aggression, definitely run Agoj because getting that extra boost towards producing the units can make a big difference whenever you're trying to build up an army early on. Since I did have Heroes and Legends mode enabled as well, I hadn't found any heroes yet, but I wanted to get one before I fought this war, so I ran Heroic Tales in the capital. If you absolutely have not found any heroes, I think it's good because a hero can make a big difference in any war, and you'll see that whenever I declare war here. So I just ran the Heroic Tales to be able to find something. Got my Pantheon. I went for fertility rates here for the extra free builder, just to kind of build up these two cities I have, make them better at producing military units, so I went for the free builder on that one. And then after a few turns, Christina asked if I was going to declare war on her. I actually lied and said that my troops are merely passing by. This is not advisable. Generally, whenever this happens, if you're actually going to attack, you should declare war right then because you get a huge grievance penalty whenever you lie about this and then attack people. So later on in the game, nobody liked me, probably because of this mainly. So if this happens to you in your game, you generally should just declare war at this point. Whenever I finished the Heroic Tales, I found Hippolyta, which is a decent hero. It's not one of like the best ones. It's not a Hercules. She's not a Beowulf, but she is still pretty good. She automatically heals 20 HP per turn, so she's super tanky, and she has decent combat strength. So it was perfectly good to use for this war, so I went and I did the devotion to Hippolyta. So a few turns later, I got Hippolyta, started building an archer just because it is important as well to have some ranged units early on to deal with enemy units. And then after getting these things out, I went and I declared war on Sweden. So Sweden here had a lot of archers, and the good thing was I was actually able to get in their face basically from the get-go. They had one archer that was already trapped on the other side, basically in my territory, so that one was very easy to deal with. And the Gazetes are pretty strong at dealing with archers, so the key thing with Ambiorix is that you just want to have your units in big groups because you get extra combat strength from having units adjacent to the units that are attacking or defending. So it's very important that you keep your units as clumped together as possible, and you'll really see that whenever I start to get into Sweden's territory. So the start of this war was basically just me attacking those archers that were here, getting Hippolyta to the front lines, and doing some attacks with that. You can really just start to see how good Hippolyta is just for the fact that you heal 20 HP every single turn. So even whenever you do attacks, you still basically end up on full HP in the next turn because, I mean, you don't lose that much HP from attacks since you're stronger than other units. So with her, I was just able to grind down the spearmen and some of the archers here. Over in the capital, I went and I placed down my first campus. I had a +3 spot, which is pretty good. Whenever you're going early war, although it is important to be building military units, you also have to make sure you don't fall too far behind in tech because if you get to the point where the enemies have crossbowmen and you're still using warriors, or they have swordsmen and you have warriors, it can be a bit tricky. It's not as much of a problem with Ambiorix, actually, because of the Gazete, but in general, it's a good idea to get down at least one campus district while you're fighting an early war. I also promoted Pingala in the capital to have Researcher. That way I could build up that science a little bit more. Once again, basically for the same reasons as why I was building the campus in the first place. And then from there, it was basically just some steady grinding away at the units that Sweden had around the city of Västerås here. So I just was bullying them with Hippolyta and then slowly moving in as I was able to. It was a little bit tricky here because I had this mountain range here, so there was only one tile that I could move through. So it did kind of slow down my ability to move through the land here at the start of this war. Eventually, though, I was able to break through and get towards the city. One other thing I want to point out, early on especially, be sure that you're plundering trade routes. They give you plus 50 gold at this point in the game, and 50 gold is definitely, it's basically 5 turns worth of gold per turn, and that could be a big difference this early on in the game. It can maybe allow you to buy an extra unit or maybe get an upgrade whenever you hit a particular tech, so definitely be plundering trade routes whenever you can. Entered the classical era then in a few turns and unlocked some new policy cards that I switched out. So I went for urban planning just to get a little bit more production towards building my military units early on. So things were getting a little heated in Vastaros. They had brought in quite a few more military units. They had 2 extra warriors and a spearman and another archer sitting in the city. But I had 2 Gazetes and Hippolyta around the city, and the combat strength of the city itself actually wasn't that high. So I was able to put the city under siege and then start attacking with Hippolyta, just because, as I mentioned before, she heals 20 HP every turn, so you might as well attack every single turn. Got a little spooked on both of my Gazetes here because they both got very low on HP. Luckily, one of them was on a farm tile, so I was able to just pillage the farm tile to get some HP. That's a very good tip, especially in early war. Getting 50 HP healing in a single turn is really good for just trying to make your units survive a little bit longer and keep up the pressure. With the other one, I was able to just switch them around with Hippolyta, so no real issues there. I was just hoping that they didn't get shot by the archer on the next turn, and fortunately they did not. Then on the next turn, I was just able to shoot the city with my own archer and then take it with Hippolyta. And surprisingly, the loyalty here actually wasn't that bad. It was only like -4 or something like that. So by moving Liang into the city, I was able to stabilize the loyalty nice and fast. After that, it was time to go after the capital, so something that you definitely should not do, and something I remember I did it in the first episode when I played Alexander as well. Don't just randomly send units, very deep into enemy territory. In general, you should scout 1 tile at a time and not just immediately move them 2 tiles, because I moved Hippolyta pretty far here, and then she almost died. I tried to back her off. She almost died once again because they got a free heavy chariot, or not a free heavy chariot, but they bought a heavy chariot. Luckily, she survived, though, and was able to get back and heal, but definitely something you should not be doing. Do 1-tile movements whenever you're moving into any territory that's covered by Fog of War. Don't be stupid like me and do that. Eventually got Political Philosophy, and I switched to Classical Republic. Even though I'm going early war, I still wanted to go for Classical Republic. Looking back, honestly, maybe something like Oligarchy would have been better just to end this war a little bit faster. But I still did go for Classical Republic just for the 2 economic policy card slots and the extra Great People Generation points. Was kind of hoping to get a Great Scientist early on here. But yeah, maybe Oligarchy would have been the better play this game. I'm not entirely sure. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But yeah, I was eventually able to back Hippolyta off and allow her to heal. So fortunately, she heals very fast, because if you're healing and also getting the 20 HP free per turn, you heal very fast. And then here you can really start to see what I mean by clumping my units up. So I just had all these Gazetes and the archers all clumped up, getting a bunch of extra combat strength from each other. And then this meant that as I was attacked by Sweden's units, I really wasn't taking that much damage. I could still heal up very easily and deal a lot of damage to them. And then as I was able to kill their units, I just slowly moved the clump up kind of, as one singular unit, and was able to surround Stockholm pretty easily. They kept buying a lot of archers, so that was a bit of a pain to deal with, but as I mentioned, whenever you keep the units as a clump like this, they really don't take a ton of damage, so it's actually fairly easy to defend, and then if you're able to get in the face of any of the archers, they do die pretty fast. So I was able to do that, move everybody up, get in range of Stockholm, and then I was able to take it, honestly, very easily. I don't know why Sweden wasn't building walls this game, because if they had walls, it would have been much more difficult, but fortunately they didn't, so I was able to take Stockholm really without that many issues. And then once again, the loyalty really was not too bad here, so there actually weren't too many concerns whenever I was fighting this early war. Over in the capital, I had built another settler, and then I had unlocked the tech for opium, so I figured I might as well get one down just to start getting a little bit of extra production and to make some great engineer points, so I placed one down in the capital. And then I just went for the next Swedish city. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but basically the same thing here. Just move the units as a clump, get around the city. It's very important to put the city under siege because then it means it's not going to heal in between turns, and that just makes it a lot easier to take it. I did find the Matterhorn as well, it's a decent natural wonder. It makes it so that way any unit that steps near it isn't going to ignore the movement penalty from hills. So it's okay, actually, but not one that I particularly utilized in this game. But yeah, once I had the city surrounded, it really didn't take too long for me to be able to take it. I also did found another city near the geothermal fissure, so that way I would have another spot for some good campuses and some good oppidums. And then I was able to take this city from Sweden, and once again, loyalty was really not a problem. So I was pretty happy with how things were going in this game. Finished my first oppidum in the capital, so that one was down to make me some great engineer points and give me some extra production. And then I considered going even further after Sweden's cities, but the problem was Hippolyta ran out of lifespan, so she was gone, and at this point, I was kind of getting tired of fighting. I was ready to start focusing on science, so I was able to run natural philosophy, which was going to give me +8 science per turn, which is a pretty big bonus for this point in the game. And then also, since I hadn't found vampires by this point, I just went for Hermetic Order. Unfortunately, I did have at least one ley line in my territory, and I also saw a few around, so it's kind of just RNG whenever it comes to Hermetic Order, but I got fairly lucky in this game with it. So now at this point, I was putting down more campus districts, planning out some oppiedoms as well. And I'm not really sure why this happened, but I got rid of a farm, and for some reason that gave me the Eureka for feudalism. I don't really know why that happened, but maybe it's some weird bug. But yeah, that happened in this game. And then yeah, after a while, once I kind of decided that I was done fighting with Sweden, I went and made peace and was able to get a little bit of gold return out of the peace deal itself. And yeah, that about concludes the early game for this one. Basically an early aggression early game. And then now as we transition into the mid game, we're definitely going to transition more to a peaceful play style and just start focusing on getting tons of production and tons of science per turn as well. So hopefully you'll join me for the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for some more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.